I claim the most ambitious title of the conference, Succeeding with Digitalization. So now you're probably expecting me to tell you the details of how you should succeed digitalizing your company or your projects or etc. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm not claiming even to have succeeded, but I will tell you how I'm working, how I'm thinking in what I think of as a rather analog environment in the shipping business. The shipping business is a rather conservative business, I would say. Seatrans here is a company that's been around for 50-odd years. It's located in Ådne, beautiful office, nice location, right in the cream center of Bergen, finer area. And in a way, excuse me, it confirms some of the image of a ship owner, wealthy people, little remote from everything else. That's not the truth. Seatrans is forward-leaning, buzzword, of course. Willing to change is in the core of the company spirit. Back in the 80s, long before I started working there, the company made a lot of money on shipping paper. We don't do that anymore. Stopped doing that in the early 90s, before newspapers became digital. The Seatrans Group, 4 companies, chemical tankers, ship management, and dry cargo. Chemical tankers are exactly what it sounds like, small to medium-sized tanker vessels shipping chemicals. Ship management is perhaps not something everybody is familiar with, but it's with the day-to-day management of the ship. It's crewing the ship, it's maintaining the ship, it's taking it to the shipyard, into the dry dock, and all of those things connected to it. Dry cargo is dry cargo. So who am I to claim this expertise? I have been working with digitalization for 26 years. That's how my boss introduced me to the company. Of course, I was 21 years at the time. I worked with development, software development, UI design. Well, I'm not going to read the whole thing. All until I started in Seatrans 5 years ago, I had a large team around of tech people. There was always a lot of other programmers, analytics, database designers, UI experts. There was a large company, a large crew of people doing the same as I do. Starting in Seatrans, that was me, and a small handful of skilled consultants which had developed the data warehouse. A data warehouse is not a new technology. And in 2015, when it was established, the concept of the data warehouse was 20 years old, something like that. Came around in the mid-90s. It was thought of as a revolution for the people at Seatrans. I started then thinking, well, of course you have a data warehouse. Doesn't everybody? No, not everybody doesn't. Everybody doesn't understand the need for data management. This is the data warehouse as presented to the users. I made this slide three and a half years ago. It's actually a little bit too technical because I write both the staging area and the data warehouse. I had to explain it out a couple of times. I don't know how many times I've shown this slide, but it is a very helpful slide to tell people when I explain to them what they have to do to get the data right. Your job, dear colleague, is to make sure the data is correct here, and we can take care of this part. If the data is correct here, well, what was the keynote speak, saying those revolutionary words, garbage in, garbage out? I would like to say no, that that's never a problem, that we never have a problem with garbage data. That's not entirely true. I think it was early this week, or was it last week, that we came across a new type of error that I hadn't foreseen. These things happen, these things will continue to happen. I have no illusions in the matter. But this is what's inside the data warehouse. So why do I show colleagues this instead of this? They don't care. Or they care but don't understand. And then there's a small perception, a small percentage of people who get it. I expect all of you to recognize the terms here. The odd one out is, of course, the InfluxDB, the rest is Azure. I'm not even sure if I remember to put in all the components we use, but I'm talking about the cloud part of the data warehouse. That's Azure, that's data lakes, that's data factories, that's all of those things, and the on-prem part. What people don't know is that the on-prem part will probably become a cloud part, and they won't notice. Because they see their source systems. They have to care for the source systems. They have to trust that we know our jobs and do this. And we do, and it works. The word now is data platform I'm using, and trying to work that into the minds of people, but is still calling it a data warehouse. That's not so important. They can call it a data warehouse. This is also, as we've seen in a couple of presentations here today, we can call it bronze, silver, and gold. It's the flow of data, it's the data from the source systems, from your ERP systems, it's relevant, it's the reporting. So, having a platform, having a source, having a basis for your digitalization effort is absolutely essential. Without it, you cannot digitalize. You need the people to do it, and you need the management to buy into it, sadly. That is often the most difficult part, to be able to convince management that this is an investment, this is something you need for the future. Another case, this is not the data warehouse case, this is digitization actually. It is taking the analog data and making it structured and digitalized. Statement of fact, it's a list of events happening in port. Especially for chemical tankers, this is absolutely essential and a legal requirement. When did you start? When did you check that the tanks were clean? When did you inspect them? When did you start pumping? How fast did you pump? When did you stop? When did you leave? The reporting is quite immense, and up until 2019, paper. Printed paper, signed, scanned, submitted. Amended, co-signed, and so on. And I remember still coming into work and seeing someone having, yes, this is the first piece of paper that the ship sent, but this is the actual one that was amended by the agent. And, oh, what's this coffee stain? Is that number 1 or 7? Those discussions, yeah, they are actually happening still. So what we did, there's an app for that now. There's a few years since that was a big buzzword, but there's an app for it, which was developed. The focus was on making it simple for the end users to do the right thing. Making the data consistent, making it instantly available at the office. This is a short, simple workflow. You can see we coming from the hose connector. Those hoses are, I don't know, 50, 100 meters long, about this big, connected in a lot of rows of pipes on board, and they flow in, and it's quite fascinating. Downstream from this SOF application, then we start to get the benefits. People not familiar with shipping probably don't understand the word demurrage. I see a lot of blank faces. In short, when you load and discharge a cargo, you have a set amount of time included in the price. If you spend more time, you pay more money. Time equals money. In shipping, very much. Having this data easily available means that the people working to calculate this can do them quicker, more accurately, and easier to document, because once customers have to pay, they become critical. It's human nature. They don't want to pay anything more than they have to. If you calculate them to less, no one bothers. They don't excuse me. They won't protest. Furthermore, having this type of data available enables port performance analytics. A rather complex report that we built, it is a very, very useful help because it enables us to help our customers. Because if our ships coming to port spend shorter time loading or discharging than our competitors, we are preferred. And we can charge them more money, and still they will save money. It means the ports are more efficient, and it could mean that you don't have to build another terminal at the port after all, because performance is improving. This is very slow working for me, coming from software, because these types of changes take years. I'm used to working with weeks or maybe months. But it's very interesting to see the fruitful. API integration. APIs, well, they're newer than the data warehouse. I don't know, 15 years, something like that. It's not a revolution, but it is. The possibility to offer data to an agent in, say, Rotterdam, having that agent contact the ship, knowing what the ship has on board, knowing what is about to be discharged or loaded, it means they work more efficiently, less work for the agent, less work for the captain, more time to focus on actually operating the ships. And, which is coming up for next year, improved energy consumption. We need to spend less energy because energy on a ship typically means burning fuel. Burning fuel creates CO2. CO2 is bad. CO2 means we have to charge our customers more money because CO2 quotas. So, using this with no, it will come later. With the next case, which is sensor data, means we can get pretty detailed views into when the machines start, how hard they run, etc. I'm not overstating that this project was and is an ongoing success. If you save a few days per ship per year, money adds up. It is afterwards even branched up, which is quite unusual in shipping, that you take the chance and branch off something that you make internally and offer it on the market, because it also means giving our competitors an insight into how we work. But the software isn't the key. The key is the data shepherd. the guy whose work full-time is to follow up the data that is put into the system. Why haven't they been, why is it not correct, why is it not filled out? And sad to say, that still happens. I think it was last week, I had a strange occurrence in the report and found out that, oh, this cargo was never loaded, according to the system. Well, it was of course loaded because it was discharging in the next port, but that made a lot of interesting numbers in reports later on. So having someone caring about the data, having someone whose work success is connected to the quality of the data, it's a very good idea. My third case I was going to talk about is something that's been ongoing for this year. Retrofitting sensor data. Why retrofitting? The fleet, the commercial fleet on the world seas is aging, say on average 10, 15 years, something like that. Technology 15 years ago wasn't really rigged for cloud-based data collection. Being able to retrofit something on board is absolutely vital. This is a slide I've used internally to explain how much better a retrofitted sensor is than the daily report that they have to fill in anyway. The straight line there between the two dots, that's the reported wind speed. And it was from 5 to 7 meters per second. So not really much wind, very windy. When we're then asked to analyze the fuel consumption in this period, without the sensor data, we have been unable to see that, yeah, but you know, around midnight it was a gale. So having this type of explanations to people, why do we need this? Relating it to something they understand. They can see, yeah, but you know, it's quite often a gale around midnight that area of the world. Everybody knows it. Yeah, well, the data doesn't know it. It looks so, you know, quiet. The concept of sensor data is quite straightforward. You have a piece of proprietary software on board. It sends it into an event hub, puts it in a data lake, takes it over to a time series database. You can offer it on the API. No one has actually asked for it yet, but I hope they will. And you make, I mean, you know what I mean. A lot of the reporting we've done in shipping are still, yeah, we have to get this on an Excel sheet. You have to make an Excel sheet for us. You can get an API? No, we don't speak API, we speak Excel. This is a simple drawing. We struggled for a while to get traction on the using of the sensor data. Collecting it was quite easy. I mean, on our part, it took me 5 minutes to set up a new ship. It's a bit more ship side, but it's not a lot of effort. Getting something to become usable means going over to people who use it. In this case, I visited the ship. I talked a lot to the ship's chief engineer. Smart guy, very interested in improvement, very frustrated with data because it didn't give him anything he needed. So we talked. I drew something up on paper, then I drew the same thing up on Visio, and I showed him, so can you use this? And I said, yes, this is useful. It's not a digital twin. Everybody has heard about digital twins, I hope. Well, they are far more complex, but you can get a lot done with a simple sketch and, in that case, 3 flow meters and a top meter, 4 data streams. It's not a lot. It's really not a lot. And as I say there, simplicity is quite often the key to get people on board, to get people interested, to say, yeah, I can use that. That's helpful. Because once you get there, then you can start working on them. So, we can do more work along those lines. I sort of give this answer away already in the beginning. It's an ongoing process. It always is. If Seatrans had been done digitalizing, I would probably be working elsewhere, because it's much more fun to drive the transformation than it is to be done with it. I really don't see us stopping doing this for years to come. Because the way things are going, more data are coming in, more use cases, the pressure is on to get even more. Heard about ESG and CO2 emissions is very much on the agenda. I changed the title on this slide to from the working title, which was "Is the People Stupid?" It was a little bit too passive-aggressive, but it was a realization for me when I started, having worked with tech people for 20-odd years, realizing that no, people don't really care if you're using SQL Server or Oracle. They don't care if you're using Azure. They want to have everything done, and they don't want to be disturbed too much. But they want to be helped. People want to improve. So I'm very curious as a person. I think people were a little bit threatened when I first started there. I was like, oh, here he comes, my name is. He's going to revolutionize everything. He's going to throw me out. He's going to change everything. And no, I sit down and talk to people. So what do you do? Oh, it's interesting. Learning something new every day, and people like to talk about the job. And every single one of them has ideas on how to improve. Not all of those ideas should be implemented, because that's another discussion. And there are two magic words, or three in English actually, that I use very consciously to get people on board. I made an active choice on day one. I said we. When we made the data warehouse, when we chose this system, that had been done before I even heard about the company. But it's we. The magic word is we, because that makes people, oh yeah, he's one of us. The other one is the simplest thank you. So how are you doing? Oh, thank you very much for helpful. That was helpful. Thank you for your feedback. I will take it into consideration. Thank you for telling me that this was crap. That comes too, because if it's not helpful, then I need to know. Because if I make something and believe it's being useful, it's not, then that's a failure. And thank you. Any questions? I hope you have questions, because you'll need some questions to fill my time. Yes, please.
Can we take it in Norwegian? I can also take it in the...
Ja da, vi kan ta det på norsk.
Hvordan vurderer du noe ved å like å lese?
Unnskyld?
Hvordan vurderer du om det du har laget har nytte for sluttbrukere? Hvordan måler du den verdien?
Det første jeg gjør, er jo å spørre, kan du bruke dette? Neste spørsmål, men hvordan bruker du dette? Hvis du sier at dette bruker jeg, ok, kan du vise meg hvordan du bruker det? På hvilken måte påvirker det din arbeidsdag? Har det gjort det enklere? Har det gitt deg mer arbeid? I så fall så er ikke vi ferdig. Altså, å gå inn i prosessene til den enkelte. Sett seg ned ved siden av dem, ta en prat. Hvordan går det med sønnen din forresten? Ja, jeg har begynt på universitetet, jeg har blitt så gammel. Og så, det å bli godt kjent med folk, det å få folk til å senke garden, da kommer det veldig mye. Men en prat alene er aldri nok, du må liksom konkretisere det ned. Derfor spørsmålet er, hva bruker du det til? Hvordan brukes det? Hvordan hjelper det deg?
dere håndterer innfluksen, eller altså innstillingen av use caser? Er det du som oppdager de gode use casene, eller får du bestillinger på det?
Litt av det jeg sier previous answer. Jeg jakter på use cases litt aktivt. Så er det jo ofte sånn at av og til må man gå litt på jakt. Som oftest så er det en backlog. Utfordringen at det er en litt stor backlog av og til, er jo at da får man ikke tid til å jakte. For det er en del ting vi dataprofesjonelle vet som folk ikke vet. Vi har synspunkt på hva kommer til å bli viktig. Hva skal vi rigge oss for? Vi vet ikke nøyaktig hvordan vi skal få bruk for det, men vi vet at vi har bruk for eksempel statement of fact-data. Det er en kvalitetssikring, og det er en litt vanskelig, for det er noen folk som er flinkere å snakke for seg enn andre. Det betyr ikke at de som har den beste casen. Men, så det der er også en utfordring, hvordan for meg klarer å filtrere ut han litt stille, introverte, som egentlig har et veldig stort problem som man ikke sier noen ting om, kontra han som prater på inn- og utpust og er profesjonell selger omtrent og har et veldig tydelig behov og er veldig flink til å forklare at dette er veldig viktig. Hva som er viktigst? Den er vanskelig, jeg har ikke noe svar på det. Flere spørsmål? Ja.
Hvem er de største pådriverne for å utvikle nye ting? Er det brukerne i seg selv, eller er det ledelsen i bedriften som...
Det er hovedsakelig mellomledere og ledere. Den enkelte bruker tror ikke jeg har skjønt at de kan. For noen de kan det også. Jeg snakker gjerne med ledere for å finne ut hvem skal jeg snakke med av dine eksperter for å finne ut hvordan vi skal løse dette. Typisk en leder som signaliserer et behov. Ja, så begynner jeg å stille mange sånne detaljerte spørsmål. Ja, hva og hvordan da? Hva og hvordan slik? Hva og hvordan sånn? Så ja, snakk med hun, snakk med den som er han. Den kan hjelpe deg på det. Sånn. Så det å finne disse nøkkelpersonene. Det er ofte folk som er over litt interessert i å forberede ting, forbedre ting. Ja, da sier jeg takk for meg.